Experts predicted that boomers would be broke in their old age. How did that turn out?
One of the richest generations, aren't they?
They are. They hold over 78 trillion in assets. They're one of the richest generations in history.
Isn't it wild how people are once right and they make a lot of money, and then all their predictions following that are all wildly wrong?
Dollars are for spending and investing, not saving. Well, the dollar has lost 96% of its purchasing power over the last century. I didn't know it was 96%.
If you have a stock picker trying to pick things, and then you put a monkey and give it a dart and have it to throw it at a dartboard, and you label each of them with stocks, the monkey gets it right and gets better returns than someone who's analyzing and trying to follow trends.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I like to think about, when you read the stories of, so-and-so is a librarian, and they died at the age of 82 and left $5 million to the library. And you're like, how? They just... Have you ever read a book that you thought was incredible, that you had to share all the stories with everyone you could ever get into contact with in your life? That's Heather today. She's going to take us through a book that she read and just wants to share everything, and I'm going to pepper her with questions, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome back to another episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. My name is Dave Grant. My co-host is Heather Townsend. Today we're talking about a book by Barry Ritholtz called How Not to Invest. This is not your regular scheduled program in here. We're just going to dive into stuff and we're just going to take you through it. Sit back and relax.
All right. I read this book. I heard it on a podcast and I was like, I love this guy. I love what he says. I want to read his book. He's been on Wall Street. He's had decades of experience in the investing world. He's seen so many things. And he wrote a book. Normally it's on how to invest, but his book was how not to invest.
Nice.
And I was like, fascinating. What does he have to say?
Yeah.
It talks about how many mistakes he's seen, because he's been writing for years too, with investing. And it's just a great example of why we say that, why we give the advice we give. He has such fantastic examples that I'm over the moon to share with our listeners today. They're funny too. So who's Barry? I know. First, I want you to tell everyone who Barry is.
All right. We're going to give him his dues. I'm going to read through his bio. So Barry Ritholtz is a veteran Wall Street professional with more than 3 decades of experience in investing in financial markets. He is the co-founder and chief investment officer of Ritholtz Wealth Management, a firm that oversees billions in client assets using evidence-based long-term investment strategies. In his career, he worked as an institutional trader and hedge fund strategist and became widely known for his influential market commentary through Bloomberg and his blog, The Big Picture, where he analyzes investor behavior, market history, and economic data.
And what I think is important of that whole thing is he used to be an institutional trader and a hedge fund strategist.
Did you know him before he started his firm, or aware of him before he started?
No, I wasn't. Are you?
Yes. So he was a talking head along with his co-founder, who is Josh Brown, who is on lots of the talking head shows. And they started their firm and were like, yeah, we'll try this out. And then it was 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. I think they're up to 4 billion now. And it's wild.
Well, they're on like CNBC and everything. So yeah. I wanted to narrow this down into a few lessons from the book that I wanted to share with our listeners. Lesson number 1, forecasts and predictions are more wrong than right. We know this. But he has funny stories, which I think are better than just telling. Like, people learn through stories. So let's go through them. For decades, baby boomers were told that they would be facing insurmountable retirement crisis. Experts predicted that boomers would be broke in their old age. How did that turn out?
One of the richest generations, aren't they?
They are. They hold over 78 trillion in assets. They're one of the richest generations in history. But you have, for decades, in newspaper with fears and forecasts that they're going to have a retirement crisis.
I'm not surprised that came up because, you've got the lost decade in the S&P 500 where it just dipped and troughed and came back and you never actually earned stuff. So it's all this fear-mongering going on. So that I'm not surprised at, but it really did not work out the way people thought. So
our listeners, history doesn't normally repeat itself exactly, but I would say it kind of mirrors it or does things that are similar. We could have another lost decade in the S&P in the future. We don't know. I have no idea. I'm not going to make a forecast, but it's possible. Okay, here's a funny story. Okay, Michael Burry, who was known for The Big Short, the collapse of the subprime market, 2008, right?
Good book, good movie.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so he was a brilliant guy. His fund made over $725 million on his short. He basically predicted what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Here are his latest predictions.
Okay.
December 15, he predicted the stock market would crash within the next few months. The next 12 months, the S&P 500 was up 11.
Oh boy.
I mean, okay, in this book, he has multiple bullets. I won't read all of them, but there's like 10 of them of predictions that he's made, and they've been wrong. All right. February 2021 predicted a stock market crash due to a speculative bubble. Shorts Tesla. Next 12 months, the S&P 500 is up 16% and Tesla is up 13%. So shorting means you're expecting it to go down. So didn't happen. Latest one, January 2023, predicts a recession and new round of inflation. Says sell. The S&P goes up 25% for the year.
Isn't it wild how people are once right and they make a lot of money, and then all their predictions following that or even preceding that are all wildly wrong? It's crazy how people are right once and wrong so many more times.
That happens a lot, though, I'm learning. From actually reading this book, he has many examples, but people know a lot about Michael Burry, so that's why I want to mention it. This one really surprised me. I didn't know this, and I'm curious if you knew this, but he's not a fan of Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote a very famous book that many people know and live by, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Have you read the book?
I have never read the book.
One of the first investing books I read. A lot of it is invest in yourself and buy real estate. Pretty much the premise of the book.
So no investing in the stock market.
Lightly touches on that. Robert Kiyosaki is an interesting man. I have to watch my words because his recent videos and speculations are wild.
That's what Barry is referring to here. And so he now calls it, he came up with some funny thing. I don't know what he calls it, I'm going to say, but he goes like, poor dad, poor read or something he calls it, or, like basically it's one of the most popular finance books of all time. But here's what's surprising. He's basically saying the end of the world is coming all the time. He's fear mongering right now, which, I mean, I'm not on Twitter, so I don't know this, but the most recent one was, on December 2023, he tweeted, FYI, bank credit just sold off like 2008. Get some cash out of banks as you need cash. This may be the start of some of the biggest crash in history. Hope I am wrong yet. No time to play Russian roulette with your life. 12/24, a year later, the S&P was up 30% higher than when the warning was treated. And then I found a more recent one. He predicted that there was going to be the biggest stock crash in history, and it would occur in February 2025. And 2025 was a double-digit performance in the stock market.
So I think if you're learning how not to invest, stop listening to people. Would probably be a way of, this is how you can get it wrong again and again and again. Just keep following people's, even popular, famous people, their predictions, their trends. They're getting it wrong all the time. And I think on the algorithm and social media, fear-mongering people, it gets more clickbait, isn't it?
Yes. And so I know I have so much to go through, but I think this is an important study I want to go back to. It was done by Philip Tetlock. He's a professor of psychology and management at the University of Pennsylvania. He studied 28,000 forecasts. Okay. 28,000 forecasts. I want everyone to that's a lot of forecasts. Mm-hmm. Made by hundreds of experts in a variety of different fields. His findings in a nutshell, Barry puts it. Expert forecasts are statistically indistinguishable from random guesses.
It's the monkey with the dartboard. Do you remember those studies? Where if you have a stock picker trying to pick things, and then you put a monkey and give it a dart and have it to throw it at a dartboard, and you kind of label each of them with stocks, the monkey gets it right and gets better returns than someone who's analyzing and trying to follow trends.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a study.
That's fascinating. So your takeaway, don't give energy to forecasts.
Yeah,
predictions.
Just diversified portfolio. Invest consistently with rhythm and as most money as you can, and just do that.
And even the experts get it wrong. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Number 2. Kind of goes with it, but it's just as bad. The media is just as bad, and here are some fabulous examples.
All right, giggles. Get them out.
All right. I mean, we're tight on time, but 2000, Cisco says, no matter how you cut it, you've got to own Cisco. It peaked in March 27th, 2000. Every year since then, it's one of the poorest performers on the NASDAQ. $80 a share in 2000. It just now got back up there in Q1 of 2026.
Yeah, I was going to say it's doing okay now, but it hasn't been for a long time.
I mean, I don't have the numbers, but what would your money have been if you invested in the S&P for 26 years?
Right. Yeah, this is a long gamble that's only just starting to pay off if you pick that stock.
If you bought it at its peak when this article came out, you just made your money back.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't gain anything. You lost a lot with inflation. Okay, Business Week 2001, why the Apple Store will fail. I don't even need to go into that. Fortune again, 2007. BlackBerry is still the most formidable force in US smartphones over iPhone.
It's kind of interesting. It's almost the media is the contrarian view. Like if you were to invest the opposite of what the media says all the time, how much money could you make?
Yeah. And then there was one time Barry came out with an article saying why we are going gaga over real estate in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
If you bought real estate in 2005, which we all know most people don't flip them and they own them for a long time, well, you just had the crash in 2008, 2009. It led to a 32% crash in home prices. So those are just a few. I think those examples alone are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And these are by, good Business Week, Fortune, Time. Like, these are magazines that people respect.
Sure. It's kind of wild how these things get written. Like, who is behind these pieces? Is it good reporting, or is it just sensational and they want to sell the magazine?
But isn't that also what the algorithm is going to today that I'm realizing is like, you have to be fear mongering, or you have to give wild advice to get people to pay attention to you.
Yeah.
Predict. People want predictions. People want control. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way.
So ignore pundits, ignore the media.
Okay.
What's number 3?
Dollars are for spending and investing, not saving. Barry puts it perfectly. Yes. Yeah. So he gave a great example. The dollar has lost 96% of its purchasing power over the last century. I didn't know it was 96%.
This is something you love to talk about, how cash loses its value over time.
I think it's very different for, again, our clientele. I have business owners, right? They hold a lot of cash. The people that come into my office are sitting on a lot of cash out of fear.
Yeah. So
if you assumed a 10.23% return, as he goes in the book, since 1917, $1,000 is $32.768 million. Like, I don't need to talk anymore about that one. Like, you can't get rich with cash. You just can't.
Which is interesting because that goes through the Depression, and that's where a lot of money disappeared and also where a lot of money was made. I had the privilege of knowing my wife's grandmother on her mother's side who went through the Depression. And it was, the only way I'm investing, the most risk I'm taking is CDs. And it was CD ladder, CD ladder, CD ladder. I'm sure those other things, but those are the stories she told me. And it could have been so much more, but it wasn't. It was just bank interest rates.
I mean, now I think it's really hard to find someone that's lived through the Great Depression. I would have loved to talk to people about what really happened with money. Mm-hmm. Like, what did you feel? What did you see around with your friends? Was it the people and the jobs? Was it like what really happened?
Sure.
You talked about this with the dartboard with the monkeys, but he goes, best stock trader, but are you? His example, over the past 24 years, you tally up gains and losses. Market averaged 9%. If you, the best stock trader, averaged over 12%, so you're better than most hedge funds over that stretch, he says.
Yeah.
But you actually did the same. So you did a lot more effort, but you did the same. Why do you think that is?
So we're comparing 9% against 12%?
Yeah, so S&P 9, you were the best stock trader ever. You did 12. I think
your key there is trading, right? You're flipping these stocks back and forth. So your taxes.
And so short term, is likely you're paying 30 to 40% if you sold it within less than a year. And if it's long term, okay, probably 20% because you got state taxes and you got net investment tax. So really you just got right back to your 9%, but you did a whole lot more effort.
A lot of work to get just what you could get if you just threw it into the S&P 500.
That's what his point is. And I'm going to read a section from his book.
Yeah.
Most stocks don't really matter. The typical stock may be up a bit or down a bit, while quite a few disasters crash and burn. But the big drivers of market returns are the 1-ish% of publicly traded companies that put up giant performance numbers over an extended period of time. To succeed as investors, you must own them. The problem he's trying to make is, how do you guess which ones those are? The odds are worse than 50 to 1 against you picking those big winners, and are near impossible that you pick only those big winners. Mm-hmm. Market cap weighted indexing, on the other hand, guarantees not only that you will own them, but that as these companies get bigger, you will own more of them. Over time, this has proven to be tough to beat. Add in low costs and low taxes, and this formula is nearly impossible to beat. I want to put that in my office. Like, that is, I had to read that. I mean, he worded that so perfectly. It's what we talk about all the time.
Mm-hmm. It's always interesting when people come into the office and they're saying, you know, should I buy NVIDIA now? Like, no, you should have bought it 7 years ago. But did you know about NVIDIA 7 years ago?
I didn't.
No one.
Yeah.
And the people who got wildly rich were working there and just, they got stock options and they're like, this is not worth much at all. And then it took off. So it's the same when you're talking about Apple. It's the same, like the time you're talking about investing in it, you've either missed the boat or it's just not worth to own because it might not have much runway anymore. And if it does have some runway, then that's just wild luck and you bought it at the right time. So yes, like this says, 50 to 1 odds against you picking that right stock at the right time, getting out of that stock at the right time. Because if you look at a long-term chart,
that's a problem too.
These don't just go up in a straight line all the way up and beyond. They are crashing all the time. And it takes nerves of steel to just ride this out. And the chance you're going to do it is very, very slim.
Yeah. I'd say if they want to own NVIDIA, put it in the rodeo count then. Fine. That's the 5%. My favorite quote from him is, average performance turns into outperformance over time. Yeah. Beautifully put. Beautifully put.
I like to think about, you know, when you read the stories of, you know, so-and-so was a librarian and they died at the age of 82 and left $5 million to the library. And you're like, how? Like, they just put money away over and over again. They didn't get a wild stock. They just kept investing and into boring stuff. And that's how you get that outperformance, just by the average investor.
So my clients, one of them, I love them so much because they agree to all the things in the plan. Mm-hmm. But do you know what they call my investing? Boring. So this goes in the boring bucket, and then this we get in our fun bucket.
They literally say it to you. It's boring.
Boring, yes. Yeah. This is the boring bucket. And we joke about it. Like, I love it because they want to do some real estate and do some fun things, which I'm totally fine with. I want them to do that. Mm-hmm. So this amount goes in the boring bucket, and then they call their investing the fun bucket. But they also get it, right? They're like, I want liquidity. I know that I'm doing riskier stuff over here. Mm-hmm. But they call it the boring bucket.
As it should be.
Lesson number 5. People brag all day about how they got right, but rarely share their mistakes. And I actually, before I go into his examples that are fantastic, I actually think about this with my clients. I know their mistakes. Mm-hmm. You know their mistakes. So I see the good side of people hitting it at the right time. Mm-hmm. But I also know about the things that they didn't do well, like buying Bitcoin at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. You know, how much money they've lost in their long-term carryovers that are from their investment mistakes. Sure. Like, that's not what's shared at a dinner party. People don't want to talk about that.
I wish they would. Make for fun conversations, but no one wants to be vulnerable. They want to be the winner.
What even gets better is he goes, so Barry goes, I could give examples, but he goes into billionaires that did this. Yeah. Because I think what he wanted to make the point of is it's not just the average person that can make these mistakes. It's people with a ton of money that makes these mistakes too. Mm. All right. This is the funniest story that I was dying. I remember being on the beach while I was reading this, and I was like, I have to talk about it and share his story that he came up with. Okay. There's an immigrant family that turned pennies into the Belco Petroleum Company, where it became a Fortune 500 company in 1962 when it went public. Arthur was the father who started the company, and he passed in 1993 as a billionaire.
Okay.
Immigrant family that became a billionaire. Amazing. Because he quietly let his company stock just compound over decades, what we're kind of talking about. So his son, Robert, took over the family wealth.
Oh, what did Robert do?
So their company, the Belco Petroleum, merged with Houston Natural Gas.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who Houston Natural Gas is? I didn't recognize the name, but you're going to recognize this name.
Okay.
The modern name is Enron.
Oh, boy. Okay.
So Robert sat on the board, the son sat on the board of Enron and got fed into the BS of what the president and everyone was saying on the board.
Yeah.
And so he rode the family's Enron shares down to zero, losing $2 billion. But that's not all. We got more.
There's more.
Mm-hmm. So he was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
They lived in New York. And, being a billionaire, they're part of the art and philanthropy scene.
Sure.
So it was inevitable they got introduced to Bernie Madoff.
How did you not cringe when you're reading this the whole time?
So after Enron, I'm following with where Barry's going too. Okay, well, I don't want to just be in one stock. I don't want to make all these decisions. I want to trust it to a professional.
Mm-hmm.
So they invested with Bernie.
Yeah.
Their loss is unknown. If anyone doesn't know what happened to Madoff, he was a Ponzi scheme. But their foundation and a corporation were listed as creditors.
Okay.
It still got worse. I know, the story is insane. So we got Enron, and then they were in Madoff.
Mm-hmm.
So after trusting Madoff, they wanted to do something new. So they trusted Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as familiar with this story, actually, of FTX.
It's interesting. And his girlfriend at Alameda, who became the trader. Yeah.
Well, so it's a cryptocurrency exchange. So they rolled a pile of cash into it. You might have guessed what happened. It was $8 billion in capital went missing, and FTX was forced to declare bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
They got funds back. Barry goes on to talk about, that there's a SPIC insurance. But you can collect money back from fraud and all of this, because when you're like Madoff, when he was in that Ponzi scheme, he was buying yachts and houses. You can't really spend all that money. Right. So there were assets that they could sell. So they recovered a lot of it. But this was the family of the Belfers, and they weren't the only other billionaire that made this mistake. The last one I want to talk about is Peloton.
Okay.
So Peloton was the founder, Peloton went crazy in the stock market in COVID, right?
Yeah.
And he was once worth almost $2 billion. He's worth like nothing now.
Sure, he's got a lot of bikes to ride though.
I don't know all the details, but I'm guessing he margined. So he loaned from his portfolio when the stock price was very, very high. Mm. He bought a $55 million mansion in the Hamptons, and he said too much leverage, living beyond his means, and too little patience to get rich slowly.
Yeah. So
the stock price was at $100 a share in July 2021, and by July 2022, it was $8. And as I'm writing it's $3 a share.
Ugh.
So I think why I wanted to give that story, the Peloton one that Barry brought, is I'm actually going to use that example of my clients that are in their company stock.
Yeah.
It's a great example of why you diversify.
Mm-hmm.
This can happen. Peloton was a great company.
I think that's with Enron too. Like, people who work there have the company stock, have their benefits. Like, you never think it's going to happen to you. But it's when you meet those clients and they're riding high on the stock market's really good, the price is really high. I hate being that guy.
It's outperforming everything. It's outperforming the S&P.
Yeah. Like, I'm going to come into that room and be like, we're selling all your company stock. And then they're like, it's a hard conversation to have.
It's a really hard conversation. But so John Foley, the co-founder of Peloton, if he had made the right decisions of selling even 20 to 30% of that Peloton stock, he would be in such a different position.
Yeah.
And then you let it ride, he'd still be a billionaire.
I think what's wild about that story with the oil company, it's if you'd have just put the money in the S&P 500 and were boring, just like we've been talking about, all these mistakes, you get away from it by being boring, going on a schedule of investing, not trying to beat your neighbor. You're just trying to be diligent with your money. You're not trying to shoot for the moon here.
And I think that was what his point that Barry wanted to make is, these mistakes are happening even at the very wealthy level.
Yeah.
Billionaires make mistakes. And I mean, we watch that's why one of those books that I read, the legacy book that I was fascinated by, like the third generation, 70 to 80% of wealth is gone by the third generation. So this whole thing that everyone's talking about, it's so popular, the term generational wealth.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you have a plan for that? Because have you done the studies and seen how that doesn't work out well if you don't plan this right?
All right, you want to wrap us up?
All right, I have a Barry's bow because he created a really cool bow, and he didn't call it a bow, but he created his bow. So I'm going to give the Barry bow that I wanted to share, and then I have my bow.
All right.
So Barry's bow is have a plan. Excess fees, any cost will impact your returns. Be tax aware, your behavior, asset allocation, passive versus active, and he goes passive, meaning don't try to outperform the market. Reaching for yield, basically saying no. We talked about that on our dividend. I know. Understand cycles, get what you pay for, be a long-term thinker, misunderstanding the nature of risk, emotional decision-making, and cognitive errors. I mean, we could talk. Each of these are a podcast episode.
You know what you could do for Barry's bow? Like 1 through 12, pay for a financial advisor.
Yeah. Okay. It's the reason we have our job.
Yep.
All right. My bow is have a well thought out financial plan that is not dependent on predictions or forecasts. A diversified portfolio, AKA as my clients call it, the boring portfolio. And stop listening to all the fluffing noise out there.
That's hard, isn't it?
It's really hard today in today's society, but it is noise. It is noise.
From someone who bought Bitcoin at Thanksgiving and got scared and sold it all. It's noisy out there.
So I last want to just wrap up. Fabulous book. I'd highly recommend that people read it. I didn't even get through half of this book with these lessons. This is half the way.
So this is episode 1 or 2 of the book?
It could be. Because I think now you want to read it, right?
I do, yeah.
There's one that I've heard him speak on it and even more studies. I'm going to do one on politics and investing. I think that is fascinating. I could go on, but I really like this book because I think everyone's trying to figure out how to invest, but knowing how not to invest is almost just as important.
Yeah.
Because it helps you stick to your plan.
Excellent.
All right.
All right, moving into the next section of our podcast. It is called Highlights. This is where we tell you anything we want to about our lives and you have to listen. You want to go first? Because I always go first.
I'll go first on this one. Mine's a business update.
Okay.
It's been enough time that I'm okay sharing it now, but I had to make some tough decisions in Q1 with my business, and I learned a hard lesson that I think you just have to go through as a business owner. But you can't make someone have a work ethic or an ownership. You can't make someone into something you want them to be. They either have it or they don't have these characteristics. And I had to learn that a really hard way. And I was talking to my mentor the other day and I was like, okay, with this next hire I make, how do we know? Like, I knew on my most recent hire because they were a personal referral, right? Like they were someone that had already worked with this person, talked about who they are, how they take ownership of tasks, how they are a perfectionist, literally. And she goes, well, if you can figure that out, bottle it up and sell it, because how do you tell that in an interview?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to dig down on my next one. I think I might put my meditation coach on them. I might do some personality tests. I mean, I'm going to keep refining it.
Yeah.
But I'm one who really wants the best out of someone, but there are certain traits you just can't instill in someone. You can develop someone, teach them like, hey, this is how you prepare a tax return. This is how you draft a financial plan. But those qualities that are just in you, you can't develop that into someone.
Hard, isn't it? It's tough you had to go through that, but it's nice that you've found someone on the other side.
Yes. That was a very hard Q1.
Mine's not as in-depth as that.
Isn't that the balance of this podcast, though?
I always come and give you TV show recommendations.
I know.
And this is one of them.
Oh, for me, too. You think I should watch?
I don't think you've watched either of these shows.
Okay.
So I was convinced season 1 to watch the show with my wife because we like to find shows that we can watch together. It's really rare. She can't handle any drugs, violence, lying, which is tough.
Lying?
Yeah, she doesn't like deception. So we find it really hard to watch shows, but these are two we found. And I enjoyed them both. I am happy to say that. We just finished season 4 of Bridgerton. Period drama. But they have all these balls and galas. The music that the orchestra's playing, Taylor Swift, The Weeknd. Like, it's all current music that they're playing throughout the shows. Storyline it's period drama stuff, but it's fun storylines. It's all like young actors. I think you should check it out with Alex. Push through the first like 3 episodes because it's like a period piece. The second show. This one is hard to watch an episode at a time. I could watch it like all day. It's The Pit. Did you ever watch ER growing up?
No.
Okay. So this is one of the actors from ER who has now come back to do another ER show. The show is all over 24 hours. So each episode is another hour in the ER. It is wild. Like this current season is over July 4th.
How gory is it?
Very.
Then I couldn't watch it.
It is horrific in the stuff that they show. Sarah can look at that and be like, ew. If they start lying to each other, she walks out of the room. She can't handle it.
I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, okay, they're lying. The gore, nope, can't watch it.
They had a severed leg in the last episode.
Okay.
And one of the medical students was like, how do we put this back on?
Like, this is where we are. Mm-hmm. Sophia scraped her knee again and it started bleeding, and Alex was shocked that he came home to find a Band-Aid on it and that I did what I was supposed to do.
Okay, you couldn't handle the show then.
No, I could not.
All right, so Bridgerton on Netflix then.
Yeah.
Avoid The Pit on HBO.
But you like The Pit.
Oh, great show.
Okay.
Phenomenal show. It's won a lot of awards too. I'll come back with some more recommendations for you on another episode.
Okay, can't wait.
All right, thank you for listening to this episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. If you want to keep listening to us on your audio platforms, we're everywhere you can find podcasts. If you want to watch us on video, we are on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, other places that video is probably. If you want to go to our website and see what we got going on there, we are at playbookotw.com. If you want to send us an email and get your question featured, or just say hi, we are at hello@playbookotw.com, and we'll see you next time.
Toodles!
All opinions expressed by Dave Grant and Heather Townsend are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the views of their respective wealth management firms. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Nothing in this material constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Clients of Retirement Matters and Townsend Financial may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.